The year after my mom tried to kill me, I was learning a lot more than just about Santa Claus. I was learning about the ramifications of betrayal and addiction and trying to make sense of why all of the adults in my life that I was supposed to love and trust the most were betraying me. Well, in this episode, I'm going to get into that and a whole lot more. If you guys don't know me and you haven't seen me before, hi, I'm Kenna. I am a storyteller, I am a survivor, and I share a lot of what happened to me growing up. And I'm not just the girl whose mom tried to murder her. And if you're listening to this and you're like, wait, back up. You said what? Go on to my channel, into my playlist, and I share in long form exactly what happened to me when I was younger. I am just starting this out. This is the first time that I'm really sharing my story. There's never been a movie. There's really wasn't a lot of news coverage on my case. And since becoming a mother, I've just found it to be so important to share my story, to break that generational curse, and to stop the cycles. It ends with me and it ends with my daughter, and I want to build a legacy of courage and strength and hope. So that's what I'm doing today. Go check out that playlist. If you are all caught up, let's get into it today. This one's going to be a heavy one, so buckle on up. This was not just the first anniversary of the worst night of my life. That year was so much more. I felt like it was really the first time that I was truly understanding just how dysfunctional my life was and just how trapped I was as a child. Honestly, it's really hard to talk about. I'm going to set the tone, okay, for kind of where I was so that we can get back in the chronological storytelling of it all. So it's going into my 5th grade year, 2007, Christmas of 2007. We're approaching New Year of 2008. It's been a year since I had seen my mom, a year of processing, a year in my brand new life. I'd been taken from everything I'd ever known and started a whole new life. I was living with my aunt and uncle at the time still, but I was having more visitation with my dad, like on the weekends and stuff. And so I would often want to spend that time with him. So I think that year, I was going to spend the night at my grandparents' house because that's where he was living at the time. He was struggling with his addiction, although I didn't know that up until this point, right? But his addiction had gotten so bad in that year that he went to go live with my grandparents, and they were kind of monitoring, help him get back on his feet. And so that's where I would go if I would go and spend time with him. So Christmas is approaching. I am going to go spend the night for Christmas, and it was so unconventional. I was so used to tradition. I don't know if this is because of what's happened to me or because that's what was instilled in me for so many years. I was such a tradition girl. I loved every tradition that we had for the holidays. My mom made it very special up until the event. And so I was so used to doing the same things. Christmas Eve was always at my grandma's house in Port Angeles. We always had my aunts, uncles, cousins. We always did a gift exchange. We always had so many things going on. They always played poker. We had all of these things we always did. And then, Christmas Day, I always woke up with my brothers and sisters, and we had a big thing, big celebration. And my mom always made cinnamon rolls. I woke up to the smell of cinnamon rolls. And then I can think of other traditions for other holidays. Well, that just paints you a picture of what my expectation was. So I go into Christmas and I'm trying to be my optimistic self. I'm just trying to, be my free-spirited and outgoing and really innocent self at that point. And it just felt so different. I remember feeling out of place. I remember it being a little uncomfortable. I loved my grandparents' house. I loved going over there. They had the same house on the river in Boise, and it was a beautiful home. And so it felt homey. It wasn't uncomfortable in that way, but it just felt like I was out of place. I've said in a video before, it just wasn't a home. I didn't have a home, a landing place, a place where I could be completely myself. And I think it's so important for kids to have that. And so it just felt a little different. But nonetheless, us. My grandmother still tried to make it special, and I remember being so adamant, like, I need to get cookies for Santa out, and I need to get carrots for the reindeer, and I need to make sure there's milk. Like, I was still such a believer and such a hopeful, and I'm going to be choosy with my words when I am talking about this as well, just in case we have little ears. But she tried to give me a sense of normalcy in that way. And then I remember going to bed and just thinking to myself, like, I really hope that Santa knows that I'm here now and that I'm not like with my mama, or that I'm gone and not in the same place. Like, I hope he can still find me. That part just absolutely is gut-wrenching to me now. As a mom, as someone who loves to make Christmas so magical, I am so sad for 10-year-old Kenna for this. Going to bed, I remember being her. I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember it so vividly. So we wake up and I'm just trying to have a normal Christmas morning. I'm like so excited. I'm like, gosh, I really hope that he came. I hope that all my presents are down there and like that it's just, you know, good old time. So my grandparents had this room off of the kitchen, and like, so it was like their kitchen, the front door area, and then this room that people weren't really, it's like you weren't hanging out in there. It was kind of more for show. It was a beautiful room, but that was where their Christmas tree was, and it was like gated off from their dogs, and so like that was where we were going to spend Christmas. So we go in there, and it all like already felt like somewhere like, oh gosh, I got to be careful, you know. But oh my gosh, we have presents, and I got gifts from them, and then I got a card from Santa, which immediately just felt strange to me because usually Santa would respond to my letter. If I wrote him a letter on the counter, he would respond to a letter and he'd write me back, but then I'd have presents. But this year was different. This year I didn't get presents, so that just kind of felt weird, but I'm like, okay, well, a lot has changed in my life, so maybe this is just something that goes on. I remember sitting there and opening it. My dad, my grandparents were there, and me. It was just us four. And I opened the card, and it was $100 from Santa. And obviously I was like so thankful. $100 I could do so much with, and I could get anything I want. And I just thought, oh, maybe, you know, maybe because things are just different, then that's just what Santa had to do this year. And maybe he just wanted me to pick what I wanted. And, you know, it was a hard year last year, but it still just felt so strange. And I was just kind of trying to make sense of like why things had changed. Like, this was the one thing that was always constant in my life. And I know it sounds silly because some people are like, Kenna, you were 11 years old. Like, didn't you get the hint? And I didn't. I was such a believer. I think that's a really great trait that I've always possessed as like a kid, and then onto my adulthood. Like, I've really tried to like stay such a believer in things. And I had that spirit so deeply when I was little. So anyway, going on, you guys, you got to hear the story. So my grandparents leave the room, and I remember walking upstairs, and I just kind of wanted to like debrief and kind of just sit in my room. That was kind of a theme that I would do at that stage. I just needed a little time alone. I was sad. I was obviously still grieving very heavily, and everything just didn't feel normal. And as I'm about to walk up the stairs, my dad looked at me and he said, hey, McKenna, like, he didn't want my grandparents to know. He's like, I'm going to need that card back. And my 11-year-old self is like, what do you mean you need the card back? This is from Santa. I remember taking that $100 out, giving it back to him, and walking up the stairs and just shutting the door and crying and crying and crying and crying. And how horrible is that? I don't even know if he remembers that story. That's just one of the many stories that I remember. And at this point, I thought my dad was doing better. I thought he was getting better. And that was the turning point for me, that I realized, oh, that's addiction. And I'm sitting there 11 years old, understanding another level of betrayal. It's the 1-year anniversary that my mom tried to murder me. I just want normalcy. I just want joy. I just want, comfort. I just want some peace. And then I get met with this. And I'm like, how do you even handle that? What do you do? What can you say? I didn't have a safe place to where I could even like go and vent about what was going on with me and like what just happened. And I wanted to scream and yell at him, but all I could do was cry and mourn not just what I had just found out, but mourning what my life was, grieving what my life used to be. And in that moment, it made me miss my mom so much more, which people are probably like, what? But for those of you who understand this level of toxicity or up and down or even living with someone with addiction, it's like they don't care and they can't care or have a capacity for anyone but themselves when they're in active addiction. And so it doesn't matter if you're 5 years old, if you're 4 years old, if you're 10 years old, if you're 25 years old, like they don't see things in a normal way. And so I was so angry at him and so angry that he wasn't showing up in the way that I needed and being the person that I needed and being the dad that I needed. And then also mourning, like, I just want my mom. My mom made this day special. My mom always did this for me. My mom always made sure we had the biggest Christmas tree and that we decorated together and we had our own ornaments that she had saved for 10 years. Like, I just wanted my mom, but that's what I was met with. And so what a complex feeling to feel and to process and to just be angry. I remember just being excited to go back to my aunt and uncle's because, you know, their house was filled with a lot of joy and we got to do a lot of fun things. And every time that I was there, spending time with him, it just felt like I was stuck in this trap as well. And if you've ever loved someone with addiction, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it is gut-wrenching. And every single interaction that you have like that honestly takes a stab at your heart, a little by little. It's like breaking down any trust or protection or connection that you felt with this person and slowly chipping it away. Because at that point, Christmas wasn't about the presents and it wasn't about Santa and it wasn't even about the anniversary. It was about losing a part of my innocence. It was about realizing how flawed adults really are and not understanding why. And it was trying to make sense of really impossible things as a child. I didn't have the tools to make sense of these things. I didn't have the resources, and I didn't even have the safety that I felt like I needed to be able to process these things. So I just kept it in and I just stuffed it down. I don't even remember telling anyone that story for a very, very, very long time. And even to this day, saying it out loud, it's kind of like crazy to me and heartbreaking. But I don't even think I trusted anyone with that story for a really long time because to me, that type of behavior started to become a pattern. And so why would I talk about something that I'm just so used to that just keeps happening? Because that's just normal. And how sad is it that children of addicts have to deal with these things? And we start having all of these stories build up in our memories. And I've talked about this, I think I talked about this in my video yesterday, is that a lot of the time addicts, they don't remember these things that they did because either they were too high or their memory's been affected by their addiction or, you know, things like that. And for anyone who is a recovering addict, I'm sure that they can speak on this. But if you're a child of an addict, like you remember everything. It's like a permanent marker on your soul. But the addict themselves, they probably don't remember. And so then for years and years, it starts compounding. And I remember this, and I remember this, and I remember this, and I remember this. And then it's up to me to release that resentment. That is so extremely hard to do because when it's happened year after year after year, situation after situation that's just damaging to you, like you just get worn out and you try to hope that they will get better. And when they don't, or when they relapse, or when they're back in their addiction, it's like a gut punch. Oh my gosh, it is just so difficult. So if anyone has ever experienced this, I see you. This story is just one of the many stories, and I'm sure I will tell a lot of stories about my life. You know, I'm a storyteller, I'm a yapper, I am an open book, and I think that releasing all of this is super important. And just like the fact that I felt shameful of these kinds of things for so many years. And it's also kind of putting the whole story together as an adult. Obviously, there were things that my mom had said or been through with my dad, and my dad had been through with my mom, and they had their own opinion about each other. So a lot of resentment he had over here and a lot of resentment she had over here. And for whatever reason, it built up, and she did what she did, which was horrible, which was absolutely horrible. Nobody can ever tell me, and there are people in my comments on Facebook who, and other platforms too, who will sometimes justify like, oh, well, if you don't have children, or if you have never been in an abusive relationship, or whatever. First of all, I have been in a narcissistic relationship before. So there's that. And I also, I do have children now. There's that. And I have experienced long-term abuse, neglect, all of the things. I have experienced all that. And I would never, ever, ever try to hurt my children, ever. And I know that mental health is so incredibly important. I know that there are so many resources that people don't have, or that people need to have access to in order to get better. And I am so for that. I want to get these people resources. I want to make sure that anyone who struggles with mental health gets the help they need. But I do know people who struggle with borderline personality disorder or bipolar or other mental health issues who don't try to harm other people. So I don't really find that as an excuse. And maybe that's like a polarizing opinion of mine because I'm a victim of a crime. But it's in situations like this that I really start to analyze both sides of the story. I can see my dad's perspective on my mom. I can see my mom's perspective on my dad. And then I am supposed to figure out me, a product of the both of them, and kind of navigate my life through these experiences that I've lived, just like this one. Like it isn't about Santa. Like I said earlier, it isn't about the anniversary, but it's a combination of these events and these things that I went through that are helping me to see and view what happened to me on a deeper level and from a bigger perspective. And I think that's really important as we walk through trauma and as we process things, is that we're able to look at the bigger picture and not just exactly what we went through, so that we can kind of see every angle, every person involved, everything that was going on. And, obviously I don't share the perspectives of my siblings because they have their own story and I value their privacy. But as I kind of dive into what my mom's perspective of the situation and my dad's perspective of the situation and my grandmother's perspective of the situation and then my perspective, I can kind of formulate like this big picture. And that's kind of what I'm walking through with all of you guys, and what my videos are and what my content is and what I'm just going to keep doing. And I'm sure that like new things will kind of pop up as I'm processing with you guys. That was a wild anniversary. That was a wild time in my life. And Christmas has always been a hard thing to walk through every single year, but I'm rewriting it now. As a mom, I am choosing freedom. I am choosing joy, and I'm choosing to have it be a day. Like, yes, some of these anniversaries are like Mother's Day, Father's Day is hard. But now that I'm a mom, now that I have a family, I get to make that different for my babies. And I'm going to preserve every ounce of innocence that I can for them. We love when our elf comes to visit, our elf on the shelf. It is one of my favorite traditions. We love to put up our tree and to have our special decorations and to just make it a really fun month. I go all out. I want the whole month to be something special. I like to do each year I want to do things on the holidays that like preserve the kids, that one day when they have their family, they can take to their family, So this past year we did ornaments, those like clay ornaments with their hands and with their feet. We made little like snowmen out of them and little reindeer. And oh my gosh, it was the cutest thing ever with my bonus son and my daughter. And then we did the same thing for I think it was Halloween, we did like frames with things. So then when this year we'll bring the frames out and then they'll have what they did last year as little crafts. So those are just kind of things that I'm reclaiming now because that happened to me, right? But I'm not going to sit there. And how do I make this better now? And how do I kind of reclaim that and build joy now so that they will never have to experience anything like that? So those are just little fun things. I'm sure if you guys have any traditions or like fun things that you love to do on Christmas, please drop them below. I would love to know. I'm always looking for new ways. I still love the cinnamon roll thing. I love the smell of cinnamon rolls in the morning on Christmas. So that's like one of the little traditions that I love to keep. But yeah, tell me some of your guys' ideas because I would love to kind of adopt them, not having parents to like go to and ask. I am just constantly looking on Pinterest or like other ideas that I've never seen before, TikTok or anything like that. So all of the ideas are welcome. I would love to start a new Harper family tradition from maybe one of your guys' ideas. So drop those in the comments below. I am going to keep working through all of these. We'll get another video out to you guys tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. If this video resonated with you in any way, please like, share, and subscribe. I cannot believe how much this community is growing already, and I just have such high hopes for the future of what this is going to become. So thank you so much for following along, subscribing. Share this with anyone that you think might be interested in or, might be shocked by what they hear. And yeah, stay tuned for tomorrow. I can't wait to see you guys, and have a great day. Bye.